She left. Maybe she said, "I need space," or "It's not you, it's me." Maybe she just went cold. And you're stuck, confused, replaying everything, asking what you did wrong. The truth? She didn't leave because of one thing you said or one fight you had. She left because of something deeper, something you probably still don't understand. Robert Glover has spent years helping men figure this out. If you think being nice, supportive, or doing everything right was enough, you've already missed the point. This isn't about blame. It's about clarity. Here's the real reason she left, and why she probably won't come back. 1. You were nice, but not real. Robert Glover's biggest warning is about the nice guy. You think being agreeable, helpful, and pleasing earns you love. But women don't want a doormat. They want a man. Being nice is often code for being fake, suppressing what you really think, feel, and need just to avoid conflict. That's not authenticity. That's manipulation. You weren't showing up honestly. You were editing yourself to be what you thought she wanted. At first, it feels good. Over time, it gets boring, draining. She didn't leave because you were bad. She left because she couldn't feel you anymore. And without depth, there's no connection. 2. You hid your needs and then resented her for it. Nice guys are masters at pretending they don't have needs. You gave her space. You listened. You tried to be low maintenance. But inside, you were hoping she'd notice you needed more. More attention, more intimacy, more respect. You never asked directly. You hoped she'd just get it. And when she didn't, the resentment built quietly. You got passive-aggressive, distant, cold. And she felt it. Women are intuitive. When you hide your needs and don't own them, it creates a quiet pressure. It feels weak, dishonest, and eventually unbearable. She didn't leave because you needed too much. She left because you pretended you didn't. 3. You made her your source of worth. You put her on a pedestal. Every compliment, every good mood, every sexual cue became your scoreboard for self-worth. When she was happy, you felt strong. When she was cold, you collapsed. That dependence killed attraction. She stopped feeling safe because now her mood dictated your mood. Robert Glover teaches, if you make a woman responsible for your self-esteem, she'll eventually pull away. Not out of cruelty, but survival. That weight is too much. She didn't want a fan or a fixer. She wanted a partner, but you turned her into your emotional oxygen. So when she left, it felt like suffocation. That's not love. That's need. 4. You avoided conflict, and she lost respect. You kept the peace. You avoided fights. You let things slide. But here's the truth. You weren't being chill. You were being afraid. Afraid of rocking the boat. Afraid of making her upset. And over time, that killed the polarity. Women feel when you're dodging conflict to keep them happy. It doesn't make you safe. It makes you weak. You thought you were being a good guy. What you were actually doing? Fading, blending, giving up your edge. That's not leadership. That's fear dressed up as patience. And when a woman can't feel your backbone, she stops trusting your presence. 5. You didn't lead. You followed her lead. Women don't want to be in charge of everything. They don't want to plan every date, set every boundary, carry the emotional weight. But that's what happens when you wait for her to decide everything. You were passive, disguised as respectful. You said, whatever you want, way too often. You didn't initiate. You didn't steer. You let her run the show, and then wondered why she stopped being attracted to you. Robert Glover says this isn't about dominance. It's about leadership, direction, groundedness. When she has to lead, she burns out. When you don't step up, she checks out. You needed her to approve of you. You looked to her for constant validation. Every compliment fed you. Every criticism crushed you. That made her feel like your emotional parent, not your partner. Glover calls this seeking covert contracts. Doing things to get approval instead of giving from a place of self-worth. She could feel that neediness, even if you never said it. And it became heavy. Women don't want to constantly reassure a man that he's okay. They want a man who knows who he is. If you needed her to constantly tell you you're good enough, she eventually questioned if you were. You thought suppressing anger made you mature. You told yourself you were above anger. You stayed calm. You never yelled. You thought that made you strong. But actually, you just bottled it all up. That repression, she felt it. It came out in your tone, in cold silences, in low-grade withdrawal. And it made her anxious, because you weren't clear. You weren't honest. Glover says anger, when expressed cleanly, is necessary. It sets boundaries. It shows you have a spine. You weren't being mature. You were being conflict avoidant. And that emotional dishonesty slowly killed the trust. She didn't need a tantrum. She needed truth. You hid it. She walked. You made her your purpose and lost yourself. You stopped chasing your goals. You put the relationship first. You started saying things like, "As long as I have her, I'm good." And at first, she loved the attention. Then slowly, it turned into pressure. You weren't showing up for your mission anymore. You were orbiting hers. Glover teaches that healthy women want a man with purpose, vision, fire, not one who clings to her for direction. When you made her your everything, she started to feel smothered. You thought it was love. She felt it as loss, of polarity, of space, of admiration. You reacted instead of responding. She tested you, not because she's cruel, but because that's what emotionally intelligent women do. They push to see what you're made of. And instead of holding your center, you flinched. You over-explained, defended yourself, tried to win her back during small moments. Every time she was cold or distant, you chased. That reactive energy made her feel like the stronger one. Glover says a man has to respond, not react. Hold your emotional frame. Stay grounded. Lead with clarity, not panic. She left because you kept trying to get her back instead of staying rooted in who you are. You didn't express desire without guilt. You stopped flirting. You stopped leading in intimacy. Or when you did, you waited for cues. You tiptoed around her mood. You didn't express raw desire. You tried to earn closeness through compliance, and it backfired. Glover explains that masculine energy is direct, honest, unapologetic. You thought expressing your sexual desire was too much, too aggressive, maybe even selfish. But to her, your passivity felt like disinterest. Or worse, fear. She didn't want to mother your shame. She wanted to feel chosen, claimed, ignited. But you gave her polite comfort instead of bold connection. You were afraid to be fully seen. At your core, you were scared she'd see the parts of you you don't like, your fears, your ambition, your insecurities. So you managed her perception. You showed her the polished version. But over time, she felt the gap. Women feel what's not being said, what's being hidden. And when she can't feel all of you, she stops trusting the connection. Glover teaches that intimacy requires exposure, not perfection. You weren't left because you were flawed. You were left because you weren't fully present. Hiding doesn't protect you. It erodes intimacy, slowly, quietly, fatally. You didn't leave when you should have. Here's the hardest truth. You knew something felt off, and you stayed anyway. You tolerated disrespect. You overextended. You tried to fix what needed to be walked away from. And in doing so, you lost your edge. Glover warns men, when you abandon yourself to save a relationship, you don't just lose her, you lose you. The moment you saw the red flags and stayed silent, you failed the test. Not because she expected perfection, but because she expected self-respect. You didn't get left out of nowhere. You left yourself first. She just followed your lead. She left you, and maybe you're still blaming her, the timing or the circumstances. But the truth? She left because something in you wasn't aligned. Not evil, not broken, just misguided. And if you're ready to stop guessing and start understanding, take Robert Glover's lesson to heart. Stop being a nice guy. Start being a real man. Grounded, honest, unapologetically whole. If this hit different, like it. Drop a comment. Share it with someone who needs to hear it. And subscribe to Unlock the Spark, because this is where the masks come off and the work begins.